Thank you for listening to the Would Somebody Testify podcast. This is a quick disclaimer to warn people that some of the topics discussed in this episode do include domestic violence, topics that may make some people with a weak stomach queasy, as well as reference to suicide. So the domestic violence is mentioned in various points throughout the episode. One of the more notable and descriptive examples is about 45 minutes into the episode. It is at that point that some of the descriptions of the result of the violence may be unsettling for those with a weaker stomach. There was shortly afterward a reference to a person who does commit suicide. For those of you who have been a victim of domestic violence or whom these subjects may unsettle, listener discretion is advised. Thank you again for listening. Hello, everyone. This is Steve with the Would Somebody Testify podcast. Today, I have brother Jesse and Brandy WybleE here to tell how they got saved and how they got together. So, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here today. Definitely, it's a little different. We've never been asked to do anything like this before, but just if I can, as long as I can keep my wife in line here and keep her with a straight face, we'll be doing great. So,
for those of you who can't see, she's currently leaning away from the mic because it's clear he's the public speaker of the household.
Yeah, it don't bother me one bit to talk in the microphone. I can lean into it and I can lean away from it and you can still hear me clear as day. My wife, she's real soft-spoken unless she's upset at me. And then we have our intense moments of fellowship. Praise the Lord. And this is probably going to be a little different because I like cracking jokes. I can't hardly be serious for the most part unless the Spirit of the Lord is moving, then I'll get serious about it. But in this instance, I really find this is going to be it's going to be interesting and it's going to be fun. And hopefully by the end of it, you can know a little bit more about us. I guess I can go ahead and start off my testimony.
You go for it.
Okay. So, for all of you that don't know me, he said, what did you say my last name was?
He said WybleE.
WybleE.
Oh, yeah, I meant to ask you how you actually say your last name. I got cut up in my own intro.
That's okay. WybleE. WybleE is the, which I've had it pronounced so many ways. I've had somebody actually call me one time looking for Mr. Waffle. And after I hung up the phone, I really should have said, no, this ain't Mr. Waffle, but this is Mr. Pancake. How may I help you? But anyway, I've had my last name pronounced wrong. WybleE, Wobble, but it's WybleE. My wife, she tells people it's like Bible, but WybleE. And I never thought of it like that. But anyway, so my testimony, I can share a little bit of it here, or a lot of it. Is I wasn't raised in church. So growing up, for the most part, was it was pretty hard. I had 4 brothers and 1 sister. I'm the youngest out of all of them. Still believe in the Lord to save those, my other siblings. But growing up, we was raised in a pretty abusive home. Came out of the home life was just, man, it was pretty rough, physically, emotionally, and there were some other different things that I was abused in that I just don't want to bring up for my mentality state. But growing up, we really didn't have, my parents didn't have much to do with this. I mean, they were either working or they were partying or they were out doing something, and then anytime we tried to do anything, it seemed like they would always gripe at us, always, put us down, push us away, ridicule us, tell us how we're, worthless, never going to amount up to anything and always going to be unreliable and just a lot of different things growing up. And it was pretty hard. Thinking about it now as a kid, and I was looking for something because my parents wasn't giving it to us, so to speak. My mom had been married several times before I was 3 years old, numerous boyfriends, a lot of abusive boyfriends, abusive husbands, so on and so forth. And so really we didn't have a stable home. Everything was just real rocky and real shaky a lot of times. And so I was looking for something to kind of make me feel better about myself, because we was, like I said, always just pushed down mentally. And so I was really wanting time with my parents, but they didn't want no time with us. So I decided, they're all the time throwing these cigarettes down, so maybe I can pick one of them up and start smoking it. Maybe I'll get their attention. And it did get their attention, not in a good way. But anyway, my stepdad decided, well, if you decide you're going to smoke a cigarette, you're going to smoke a whole carton of them. That was their trick of trying to break you from smoking cigarettes, is to have you smoke a whole carton of it and make you sick as a dog and make you not want it again. But really, it didn't do that for me. It made me sick, but I just kept doing it because it got their attention to do something with me, even though it was horrible. And from there on, it just seemed like they didn't care. They said you can smoke all you want to, but you'll have to pay for your own habits. So I went out, started raking yards and mowing yards, different things I could do to support my habit that I had started. And it just seemed like that wasn't good enough. So, and I still didn't feel good about myself. And I seen my brothers, they're older than me, they're going off, and they seem like they're having a great time, and just, they're real happy, seems like. And so I decided, I want to do what they're doing. I didn't know what they were doing, but when I got to hanging around with them and following them and going with them everywhere they went, they were doing drugs. And so, I guess I jumped ahead of the game here. I started smoking cigarettes when I was 7, and then I think by the age of 10, my memory don't serve me very good. I have a lot of slick spots in my mind. Train derailed several times. Anyway, I think by the age of 10, I was starting to smoke marijuana and different things with my brothers. And it excelled from that to something worse, until finally we was doing cocaine together. And by the age of 15, I was doing cocaine and meth, different things with my brothers to give me a sort of relief from all the pain that I was facing mentally. And really it seemed to help temporarily, but whenever I had became sober, all the pain and torment, everything come flooding back in, and then I'm looking for another fix to help get me by. And like I said, I didn't know nothing about the Lord at the time, and by the age of 15, I'm already drinking alcohol too. I'm sneaking in my dad's refrigerator, getting out his whiskey and drinking it, and at that point he really didn't even care. My parents didn't care what we did. As long as we left them alone, they didn't care. So at the age of 15, I was sitting at a table with my brothers, and we was getting ready to do drugs right there, and I can look back now and realize it was the Lord, but during the time that it was happening, I didn't know nothing about the Lord. I didn't know anything really about God. Nobody's ever told me anything about the Lord. But at that moment, it was almost like a voice that spoke to my heart and said that I didn't need that there was something better. And that immediately, from that point on, I lost a complete desire for drugs. And I couldn't explain why. My brother's like, well, what's wrong with you? Is this not good enough for you? They started, questioning me, and I'm like, I'm not craving it. So they told me, like, well, if you're not going to do it, then you need to go home. So, got up, went home, whatever. Went on about my life, still smoked cigarettes, still sneaking alcohol out of my dad's fridge. And so life went on, progressed, all the time, abuse. Man, it was horrible. I can't count how many ashtrays that I've felt hit the back of my head. And it's probably what's wrong with me mentally, really. It's all things that's hit the back of my head growing up. Ashtrays, remote controls, pots and pans, and just different things that whatever they can grab the handle on, they throw it at me. So, and my mom and my stepdad wound up getting divorced. So we moved to Louisiana, and he was still in Arkansas. Well, he became paralyzed from the waist down, living in a camper. We'd go up and see him every so often, and then just one day an accident happened, or no, it wasn't an accident. The accident was what caused him to be paralyzed, but one day he had such a bad infection in his legs, they had to cut his legs off from the knee down. And so he was still living in a camper, struggling, getting by. So I decided, I know we had our differences and we didn't get along real well, but I decided, well, I'll just move to Arkansas to help take care of him from Louisiana. And so I moved up there, and at this point, it was just a free deal. We went in together, bought Jack Daniels, bought Royal Crown, whatever. We bought all these things together, and we just split it. And we get drunk and just, I don't know if we'd fight. I can't remember if we fought or not. We may have, but anyway. So while I'm there, alcohol is a pretty expensive habit to pay for. And I can remember I went to the store there in Falcus, Monster Mart, owned by Denny Roberts, and he knew me because years ago he was my probation officer. I got in a lot of trouble during all this time, and I probably should have talked about that, but when you're a troublesome child, you know you're going to get in trouble. So anyway, but I talked to him and I said, I'm wanting some work. Is there anyone that could use me? Well, he put the word out. One man called me by the name of Ray Weathers. And I know he's not in church no more, but I'd like, we still pray for him. He was a huge impact in my life when I did get saved. He helped me a lot. But I worked with him one day, and he invited me to come to Calvary there where Brother Mike Brewer is. He's my current pastor when we're home. But he invited me to come. I didn't go. 2 weeks went by, didn't hear nothing from nobody. And I asked Brother Denny again if there's anybody else. Well, then the next call I get is from a man named Justin Brewer. Kind of a funny story about him. So the last one I built fence with was Ray, and then he was the second guy. So in my mind, I thought they were both the same people. And I got in the car with him. He came and picked me up, and I got in the car with him. I was just looking at him, and like I said, I didn't realize there were two different people at the time, but I looked at him. I said, "Man, you done put on a lot of weight since 2 weeks ago." And Justin looked at me. He said, "Dude, I don't even know who you are." I said, "Didn't I work with you 2 weeks ago?" He said, "No, that wasn't me." I'm like, "Oh, well, I'm sorry. You are a big guy, though." I just went and told him that. But so as I began to work with him and his dad, Brother Mike, they began to invite me to church. Brother Mike, we'd be out there on jobs, and the Lord to move on to talk to me about, different things, how the Lord has plans for my life, and just kind of minister to me, so to speak. I really can't remember all that was said. I don't have a good memory. It's bad. I do good to remember what I did last week, let alone that long ago. But they began to invite me to church about every other day. And they'll tell me, "Hey, we got some food coming up." And I really think that's what got my attention, is they told me they had food after service. And I'm all about food. And matter of fact, that's what I tell people: the quickest way to a man's heart's through his stomach. But anyway, so finally I decided, I'm going to go to church to get them to quit bothering me about it. And the night that I was getting ready to come to church, I told myself that this is going to be a mistake. This is dumb. Why am I doing this? Why am I going? And I was like, this is going to be a huge mistake. I already know it. And when I went to church, I didn't have no nice clothes. I went in there. I was really a sight to behold. I was skin and bones pretty well. Came in there with cargo shorts on, had holes in them. Had a short sleeve t-shirt on, holes in it. My shoes was wrapped up in duct tape. And had long curly hair, had patches all over my face. Looked like I had the mange trying to grow a beard out. It was really funny. It was great. I look back at that now and laugh, like, man, that was so funny. And and I was on guard. I really was. I was on defense mode, because I was thinking, these people are probably going to judge me by the way I look. Everybody's coming in. They got these nice button-up shirts, slacks, suits, and just look real good, got nice vehicles, and here I am showing up on a bicycle looking like a bum. And so I was on defense mode, just ready for someone to ridicule me for the way I looked. But that's not what they did. They pretty well just loved me. I mean, they took me in like I'd been a member there my whole life, and they just welcomed me in like a friend or loved one, whatever. Like, just, it was something that stuck out real big to me, because I was not used to that. And went through the service. I didn't go to the altar and pray. As soon as they called the altar call, I got up and left, if I remember right. And but there was something there in that service that really had a pull on me, because I never experienced it before up until that point. And that was love. I mean, it was real love, and it was the love of God that was in that service, and it caused me to want to experience more of that. And it didn't matter how much alcohol I drank, it didn't matter how many cigarettes I smoked, or who I hung out with, what movie I watched, or games I played. It didn't matter what I did out in the world. I couldn't get that same feeling that I had felt that first service that I went to church. And I wasn't faithful in the beginning of going. I'd just go every so often to kind of get that feeling again, get that spiritual high, so to speak. I don't know if you'd call it that, but so I went back, then I'd go back again, and finally one service of going back, I was sitting on the very back pew, and I was sitting back there, and the Spirit of God was moving in the service. At the time, I didn't know that, but I could see now it was, because I was sitting back there, I was just bawling like a little baby. I was crying, big old crocodile tears is what they call it back home. And I couldn't stop crying. I couldn't figure out why I was crying so much. And I felt such a pull to the altar, but I didn't feel like I belonged. In my mind, I've always thought you had to have money to go to church. You had to have nice things to be a part of a church, and this and that. Just, that was what was going on in my mind. And there was a man there by the name of Lord Littleton, and he came back to where I was, and I guess he saw me crying back there, and he asked me, he said, "Would you like to come and pray?" And I told him, I said, "I would absolutely love to." I said, "But I don't feel like I belong. I don't have nothing to offer." And I said, I don't look as good as y'all." He said, "Well, you ain't got to worry about that. You just come as you are." And so I went up there. I told him, I said, "I'll go if you'll go with me." He said, "I'll go with you." So we walked up there, and I really wish I wouldn't have sat so far back on the church, because from the back of our church to the front, it's a good little walk. And I'm telling you, the tears were just flowing, and the snot was just running before I ever got to the altar. But I hit that altar, and Brother Mike came down, and he walked me through the sinner's prayer. But I told the Lord, I said, "Lord, I made a mess of my life. I don't have nothing to give. The only thing I have that I can give is just me and my dog." It's kind of funny. Had a 3-legged rat terrier. No, he's 4-legged. We had another dog with 3-legged. Anyway, it was just me and a little rat terrier. I said, "Lord, you can have me and you can have my dog. That's all I have." And I laugh about it now. He didn't want my dog, but he wanted me to surrender to him. And I gave my life to the Lord that night. And still crying, I went back home that night. My stepdad kicked the fridge open and got the Jack Daniels out, and he said, "Hey, you ready for a drink?" And I told him, I was like, I'm really not craving it. I'm not thirsting after alcohol. And he said, "Well, what's wrong with you?" I said, "Well, I got saved tonight." That's all I could tell him. I didn't, I was new to it. I didn't know. But he said, "Well, that's good for you." He said, "More for me." That was encouragement right there. Good for you. It's more for me. Anyway, and so going through it, I was still smoking cigarettes like a freight train. I was going through them 3 packs a day, and just couldn't hardly quit smoking. And talked to my pastor. I said, I know it's not good for me, and I know the Lord has bigger plans for me, but how can I quit smoking? I've been addicted to them since I was 7 years old. And he said, "Well, just pray about it. Just pray about it. Seek the Lord about it. Read your Bible, maybe pick you up some gum or something to chew on while you're praying, and kind of get your mind off of the nicotine." And so I began to pray about it and read the Bible. I try to just find my place where I can get a hold of the Lord. And I told the Lord, I said, "I know it's not your will for me to be smoking these cigarettes like I do. It's all it's doing is destroying my body. And I said, Lord, everybody tells me I can't quit cigarettes. It's not going to happen. You can get on a patch, you can do this, you can do that. But at the end of the day, you're still going to be dealing with cigarettes. You might as well enjoy them, because that's your life now. It's what you're going to be stuck with, because nobody can quit smoking. And, well, I've been praying about it, and we was living in the camper. Me and my dad was. He slept on the bottom side of it, and there was a top part that he couldn't get to because of being paralyzed. So I'd always sleep in the top side of the camper. And I can remember one night I had got done praying. I got up in the bed, and I had pulled out a pack of cigarettes out of the carton I had beside the bed, and I pulled a cigarette out, put it in my mouth, and before I could ever light it, the voice that spoke to my heart when I was 15 years old came in the top side of that camper again and spoke to my heart again right there and said, "You don't need that. I've got something better." And I lost a complete desire for cigarettes that night. Is because God had came in the top side of the camper and met me there, and met that prayer that I had been praying and seeking for him to help me with. Yeah, we can't do any of these things on our own, but in Philippians 4:13 says, "I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me." He is the one that gave me the strength to quit doing dope, to quit drinking alcohol, to quit smoking cigarettes. It has all been the Lord that has brought me thus far, and has given me deliverance from all these things that have such a stronghold on people out in the world. If they can just realize that there is a chain breaker out there. There is the one that can deliver you from all those things. And I'm thankful that God did that for me, that I can share my testimony with those who may be battling those things, that may be fighting those things, that they know they don't want to do it, but they can't quit it on their own. And I'm thankful that God has given me that testimony that I can share with others, that of what he can do for you if you just put it in his hands.
Yes, sorry, I guess I'll go ahead and give my part of the testimony. I'm super nervous. I didn't grow up in church either. The only church I remember going to, I had a friend that in second grade, she had invited me to go to church with her, and I went to a Baptist church, would come pick us up on a church bus, but I don't ever remember learning anything from that church. I just remember having a lot of fun. They kept us real entertained, would take us on trips, and always doing, VBS and things like that. And so but I don't ever remember, sadly, learning anything about the Lord, or anything that I could apply to my life. But before that, my grandparents raised me. They ended up with me. My parents had lost custody of me when I was 2, and my brother was 3. So my grandma and grandpa raised me most of the time, and then I would stay with aunts and uncles and different things, whoever would let us stay with them. And Grandma, she worked full time, and Grandpa, he worked full time also. He had his own logging business, but he was behind closed doors. He was a very bad alcoholic and was real abusive to everyone, and in every way imaginable. He was very abusive to my grandmother and to anybody that was around him. He was just a grumpy old man. And but I think later in life, he did get better when he found out he had cancer, and he started doing better and kind of straightened up near the end of his life. But the way I got introduced to holiness is my grandma and grandpa ended up getting a divorce when I was 10 years old, and my grandma, I can remember going with her one time. She went and visited Fairland Holiness Church, and that's the first time I ever remember, and I really didn't grasp anything about it. But then a few years later, I ended, we were, like Jesse had said, we weren't really supervised very much, and we're just allowed to do, me and my brother were allowed to do just basically whatever we wanted to do. So we would go to parties and drink, and get in trouble and just different things. We'd sneak out all the time and go to parties or get dropped off and, come home 3 days later after just being at a party all weekend long. And living that kind of lifestyle as a young girl, I ended up getting pregnant at 16 and had my first child, who is now fixing to be 20 in October. His name is Waylon. But when I was 13, is when I met my first husband. He had started going to our school, and we rode the same bus together. And the property that he lived on and where my grandma and grandpa lived, they connected in the woods. So we would always go back and forth to each other's house. He was my brother's best friend, and his name was Colby. And we were together off and on. He was from Louisiana, and so he would come in town, but then when he knew he was going back out of town, he would end up breaking up with me. It was just, it's just the life of sin. And, looking back now, I'm like, why did I even, live like that? But I didn't know any better. I didn't really know how relationships were supposed to work, because I never really had a good godly example of how a relationship is supposed to go. So he would leave, but then anytime he would come back in town and move back to Arkansas, we would, drop whoever we had at the time as boyfriends or girlfriends, and we'd be together again. And that went on for years. From the time I was, like I said, 13 was the first time we was together, and then back and forth, just off and on. And then when I was, I think, 20, I got pregnant again with my second son, Dakota. And which it was one of them times where we were broke up. So my first two boys, they have different dads, and then my daughter Maddie, we had her right after me and Colby had ended up getting married when I was 21. Right, we got back together again when I was pregnant with Dakota, and then got married shortly after he was born, and then had Maddie. Within our first year of marriage, we had Maddie, and when Maddie was probably 2 months old, we had, back in. One of the reasons that Colby was so unstable is because he was on drugs really bad, and he drank and, used marijuana real heavy and used meth real heavy, and was just back and forth. That's why we'd break up a lot of times, is just because of drugs or him leaving, different things like that. And when Maddie was 2 months old, and Dakota was 17 months old and Waylon was 6, all of the kids got taken away and were put in foster care. And during that time that they were away in foster care, we had split up again, because he, on top of being on drugs really bad, he was very abusive to me. He would beat me really bad, and the caseworker we had stayed with my mom one time, and our caseworker had meetings with us every month, and I come into one of the caseworker meetings, and my eye was swelled shut. It was black, and I was staying with my mom, and I told her that I fell and hit my eye on the doorknob, when all reality, he was upset and he punched me in the eye. We were staying in a camper out behind my mom's house, and he had got really mad that night because I was trying to keep him from going out and getting some more drugs. I was trying to keep, get him to stay home and straighten up and, talk him into doing right, because our kids are on the line. My focus was trying to get the kids back, and it just didn't seem like he cared about anything but where he can get the next, hit of drugs from. And he ended up getting really mad at me and punching me a few times in the face. And so my eye was swelled shut, but I was scared to tell my mom, because I didn't want Mom to get mad and, kick him out or anything, because, I thought, he had been there the most, so I thought that's, I don't know. I don't know what I thought looking back. I just, I'd always seen my grandma stay no matter what, even though my grandpa had abused her. So that was the example that I had. So I just thought you have to stay no matter what. So the caseworker seen that my eye was black, and my mom's like, oh, well, she fell. And the caseworker looked at me and said, you better tell your mama the truth. You know you didn't fall. So my mama looked at me and she said, you fell, didn't you? And I said, no. I dropped my head and I said, no, he hit me. And my mom started crying and different things. So when we got back, because he wasn't at that meeting, he was trying to go to work somewhere. And when we got back from there, Mom had told my stepdad at the time, and she just, they all got in a big fight, and he ended up fighting with my stepdad and my mom. They were all in one big fight, and so he ended up leaving again at that time. So I went on my own and tried to get a house and get a job, and I ended up moving to Falk, Arkansas, back from, like, I had been there off and on, but I grew up in Doddridge, but then, just bounce around from place to place. And then so I moved to Falk and got a house and got a job. Was renting a trailer house, and they had did the home study and all of that, and they just still kept denying me getting the kids back, and so I let Kobe come back for a little bit, because he'd always say he'd do better and say that he was sorry. So I let him come back, and so he wasn't working yet. He was trying to find a job. So one day when I was going to work, he wanted to go fishing, and so I took him to go fishing and dropped him off at a pond down the road from where we live. And when I come back, he was talking to a guy, and then he got in. He's like, "Hey, that guy said he knows you, and he invited us to come to church." And his name was Jason Pennington, and so I thought about it, and really didn't know much about church, but I'll go back. I had forgot to say that when I was 17, I went to Fairland a few times on the church bus, and but I never, like I said, like before, I really didn't understand everything, and I really didn't never get rooted. So I really, not being exposed to holiness, I seen all the standards, and I just, not growing up in it, I really, as a teenager, I didn't think I could live that. So I just, it had been years since I had even went to church again. So I was reluctant, but I had this great idea, or we had talked about it and had a great idea of, well, maybe the church will help us get our kids back. That's what, honestly, that's not the right reason to go to church. But that's on it, in all honesty, that's what we thought, well, maybe if we can go for a little while, maybe the pastor will go to court with us and help us get our kids back. And so we went to church, and went a couple of times, like Jesse said, just didn't go to the altar the first time. And it turns out my sister actually went to that church. So that was nice that my sister was there. That I didn't grow up with her because our mom didn't have her either growing up. Her grandparents on her dad's side raised her as well. So I didn't really get to grow up with her or know her or anything like that. So it was nice to have a sister that was in church. And came time, well, I remember praying, going to the altar and praying, but I really didn't, I don't know, I don't really feel like I really got what I was needing. You can go and pray, but not really feel like you get victory and get, I felt like I told the Lord I surrendered, myself to Him, and, wanted Him to save me, but I really didn't get that deep rooted, that experience, that life changing experience at that time at first. So a little bit of time went on, and my husband ended up getting back on drugs because he prayed at the same time that I did. But he didn't stick with it. He got back on drugs again, and so he was gone again. And I went to court, and this time at court my kids had already been in foster care for 10 months. So it was winding down, and they had told me already that we weren't getting them back, that the case plan now had changed from bringing back, from the mother getting them back to adoption was now the new case plan. And they had already told me where each one of them was going to go. They already had families picked out where each of them was going to go. And then my 6-year-old was going to be going to a group home. So it was really devastating to be told that, and this was after I'd started going back to church. And it was, I was really broken, really devastated after hearing all of that. And I'd go in to church the next time that we had church, and I really had like a wall up because I was so devastated and so broken. So I think I probably missed a few services. But I remember going again. I just, found myself just keep going back because it's all I had left. My husband had left again. So church was all that I had. My kids were gone. I didn't have any friends, or I didn't have any close family or anything. So I found myself going back to church just to try to get help from the Lord. And I don't remember anything that was preached that night or anything, but I feel like this is the night where I really got help, where the Lord had really changed my heart. But I went up to the altar when they made the altar call, and I just wrestled for what seemed like hours. And I was telling the Lord, Lord, I thought you were going to get my kids back, just kept crying because I was just so broken and so sad that they said I was, that the case plan was now adoption. So I just wrestled with the Lord. Lord, please, why I expected you to get my kids back. And I just kept hearing like a voice in my heart say, even if you never see them again, will you still serve me? And that was hard to say yes to. So I kept saying, but Lord, I can't not ever see them again. That, I love my kids. I can't not be with them. I can't not have them. They're everything to me. I love them more than I love anything. And just no matter what excuse I gave the Lord, no matter what I said, he just kept saying the same thing. Even if you never see them again, will you still serve me? Just over and over and over again. And finally, trying not to get emotional, but just talking about it makes me, be right there again. But finally, I said yes, no matter what, Lord, no matter what I go through, no matter what comes my way, if I never see my kids again, yes, Lord, I'll still serve you. You're all I have left. I don't have anything but you. Everybody has left me. I've lost everything, and you're all I have. So yes, no matter what, Lord, I'll still serve you. And I look back and joke now that that when I told the Lord yes, no matter what, I say that the devil heard that too, because there's been so many things that I've went through looking back that I never thought I would ever be able to get through, but the Lord has been faithful, and he's allowed me to come through every situation. He's been right there with me and held my hand and things that you wouldn't ever think that somebody would keep their head up and keep serving the Lord and keep going on. I've seen people get out of church for little things, but I've been through some big things that the Lord has helped me to just keep going and keep serving him. But I think back, and I think that going through losing your kids and them being in foster care would be a bad thing, but I look back and I see it as a blessing, because had it never happened, I would not have served the Lord. I don't feel like I would have served the Lord. I don't feel like I would have, really stayed dedicated to the Lord if I would have got them right back, right when I expected to, right when, the first time we went back to court. If I would have got them back, I probably wouldn't have kept serving the Lord. But when I was telling the Lord, yes, I'll serve you no matter what, when I was praying, I literally felt something hurt in my chest. It felt like something cracked in my chest. And I've, thought on that many times, and thinking back and asking the Lord, why did that hurt? Why was there like a physical pain when I surrendered to the Lord? And I feel like He told me, because it was my will breaking. It was my will, my hopes, my dreams. When I fully surrendered and my will broke and surrendered over to His will, that hurts, when you have to give up what you want and not, and actually trust somebody else to have your life in their hands. For somebody that had never been able to trust anybody in my whole life. I've been let down by everybody that I ever put my trust in. So to actually fully trust in somebody, that was really hard for me. And I don't know why it hurts, but I feel like that's what the Lord was telling me, that it was my will breaking. And so it was probably a few weeks later, after I'd prayed and fully surrendered to the Lord, that I went back to court, and the Lord just moved in that courtroom. Like, and every other court date, they always would just, whatever the state said, they would go with them, and just, I never got a word in. They always believed all the lies that they told, because they told a lot of lies, and that's a whole nother story of all the things that they put us through. But you could just feel the atmosphere in the room change. They were asking, well, why hasn't she got her kids back yet? And they said, well, when we did the home study, there was some dirty clothes in front of the washing machine, and that was the reason why they still weren't letting me have my kids back. And the judge, he looked and he said, "Are you serious?" And they said, "Yeah, there was a few dirty clothes in front of the washing machine." He said, "Well, I have dirty clothes in front of my washing machine right now. Are you going to come take my kids?" And then when he, you could just feel it change, because he had never argued with anything they said. He had never went against them in any way, but just, you could just feel the Spirit of the Lord, is what I feel like it was, just come in that courtroom. And then he started to address me and talk to me. And he started asking me when the last time I'd seen my kids were, and just different things, and let me have a chance to speak. And I told him it had been 3 months since I'd seen my kids at that time, because for reasons that we'll leave unsaid, that they ended up cutting off the visits completely, because of things that the caseworker did and lied about. And he said, you can start having visits again. And he said that they won't be supervised anymore, that I'll get to take them home with me. And so I got to take my kids home with me, and that was on a Thursday when we had, or Tuesday or Thursday, I don't remember, that we had court. And then I got to get them Friday and take them back on a Monday. And we did it that weekend, and then not the next weekend, but it was like a bi-weekly visit. So the next one after that. So we got them, and then I took them back. And then the next one was a holiday weekend, so I didn't have to bring them back until a Tuesday. So when I pulled up to give them back to the caseworker, she had the back hatch of like a Tahoe open, and she was setting stuff out, and I just thought she was working. I didn't know what she was doing. She had a lot of cases, and I didn't know what she was doing, but she was steadily setting bags out beside her vehicle. And so I popped the trunk and start getting my kids' stuff out, and I asked her, I said, "Well, do you want me to put their bags in the trunk?" she said, no, get all their stuff and put it back in your car. Your case is closed. You get to keep them. So we never had to go back to court. We never had to do anything. As far as the court, I got to take them back home that day and keep them full time. So the Lord just really moved and worked in that situation. And so we were thankful. We started, my husband came back right after that. It was one of the times where he, oh, you got the kids back. So, I'll come back and start going to church and be happy family again. And, it wasn't hardly no time. He was, back to his old tricks. He has, started using drugs again. He started beating me again. Just really, really bad. And it got to the point where he had nearly killed me. He had just beat me so bad. There was, I don't know, there was just, it got to the point where he had beat me so bad one night that, he thought he did kill me, and he left me in the room, with the kids were screaming all around me, and, I could hear him, he knocked me out several times. He would just keep punching me in the head, and, just would knock me out, and he would start slapping me in the face and cussing at me and telling me to wake up, that I was going to be awake when I die. And just several times I lost consciousness, and he would just start slapping me when I would pass out. And I stopped. I kind of came to again, but then I pretended like I didn't come to. I kind of played dead because I was afraid he was fixing to kill me. So I played dead. I just stayed limp, and I never responded to him slapping me. I kind of tuned it out, even though it hurt. And I heard him start panicking, but I never moved. I just stayed still, and he started panicking. He was like going pacing around the house, and then I could hear him go outside, and he couldn't find the keys to the car, so he was looking everywhere for the keys to the car. But he had already slashed the tires to the car, trying to prevent me from leaving, because we'd been in a big fight. And I heard him start going to all the neighbors' houses, and he was banging on their doors, and it was like 2:00 in the morning. And he was banging on all their doors, and I could hear him yelling, like, somebody get me out of here. I just killed my wife. He was going around to every neighbor, telling them that he needed to get a ride out of there because he just killed his wife. And he had made it all the way, probably, it was like 2 blocks up and maybe 3 more blocks. It was like, I don't know, maybe a total of 5 blocks up was the Easy Mart from where we were living. And he had made it all the way to the Easy Mart, asking people, to give him a ride and telling everybody he had just killed his wife. So they had got several reports called in by the police. And I waited a few minutes until I didn't hear him anymore, and I knew where the keys were. They had slid underneath or behind the dresser. And so I went and grabbed the keys, and with the car tires slashed, I got the kids all in the car. And I went to my sister's house, and she said as soon as she opened the door, she just started crying because I could barely see when I was driving, because I just had blood just pouring out of, just cuts on my face, and just blood pouring out of my ears. He had beat me so bad till blood was coming out of my ears, and both of my eyes were basically swelled shut. So it really scared my sister when she opened the door, and she just started crying and told me to come in really quickly. And probably 10 minutes after I'd been there, there was a big bang on the door, and I thought that it was him, that he had found me. And so my sister went to the door, and it was the cops. And they told us, we found out the full story later. He had made it all the way to the Easy Mart, that he had asked somebody at the gas pump to get him out of there, and told him, and he had even went inside and everything and told him, get me out of here. I just killed my wife. I'll pay you like $50 just to give me a ride. And the person that was pumping gas was related to me on my dad's side. It was like a distant cousin. So he knew me and he knew my husband. So he went inside and told the cash register cashier that he's like, this is my license plate number. This is the vehicle I'm driving. I'm gonna head south. He said, you call the police and I'll drive really slow. He's like, 'cause this guy just said that he killed his wife and he's needing to ride out of here. He said, I'm gonna, he basically was trying to get him in a place to where that the cops could get him and get me checked on. And by this time, when the cops finally did get to him, it was probably, they hadn't made it maybe 4 miles down the road because he was driving really slow. And when they banged on the door, they was asking, was I in there? And my sister said, yes, she's in there. And he said, well, we need to see her because he's saying he killed her, and we need to make sure that he didn't just dump her body somewhere, because we went to the house and searched and we can't find her anywhere. So they must have got there like right after I left or something, because I hadn't been there 10 minutes, it seemed like. So as soon as I came to the door, he like immediately on his CB had said, we need an ambulance. He's like immediately called for an ambulance. And I was like, oh, cause I never even looked at myself. And I was like, oh no, I'm fine. I don't need to go to the hospital. He said, yes, you're going to the hospital. So, he was in jail for a while. I had a restraining order on him for a while, but, he got back out and he got out of jail. And he started going to a church that was in a close town. I guess he did bad for a little while, but when he got out of jail, he was supposedly going to do better. And he would, like I said, started going to a neighboring church that's a holiness church, and then started doing good. And when he did good for about 4 or 5 months, of course, I let him right back in. But he never hit me again after that, but I let him back in, and we went for about 3 or 4 months of him doing all right, going to church, where he started slacking up going to church again. And then he started with he just always had a chip on his shoulder again. It's like I'd been through the cycle so many times of he'll do good, and then there's all these little signs leading up to the point where he finally gets mad enough to beat me up again. There's all these little bitty signs that I started to recognize again. He would just be super aggressive, insult me constantly. Just if he was not happy, like he would just bump up against me, kind of like knock against me as I'm walking by or something like that. And then I'd said something and he snapped, and he kind of like held me up against the wall with his arm and kind of pinned me against the wall and was like, being real mean, talking to me in my face. And I kept putting up with it. But then one morning, I was getting the kids ready to go to church, and he wasn't coming. All I asked was like, are you sure you don't want to come to church with us? We'd really like you to come to church with us. And he just got really mad, like there was no warning or anything, and he picked up a chair and threw it all the way across from the kitchen to the front door, which was pretty far, probably at least 20 feet, and it landed right beside my head. And I was just so scared. I didn't say anything. I just went on to church. And I talked to my pastor after, which was Brother Mike Brewer. I talked to him after church. And I told him what had happened and told him that I was scared to even go back home. I thought any moment he's going to beat me up. And every time it got to the point where he would beat me up again, it would always be worse than it was the time before. And anything worse than the time before, anything worse than what he did to me before, it was going to kill me. Because it always already been to the point where he thought he killed me. So I was really scared that at any moment, like, he was fixing to kill me. And Brother Mike suggested, to just maybe talk to him and see, if he's not happy, ask him, don't ask him to leave, but maybe ask him to think about, if you're not here and you're not, if you're not wanting to work it out and you're not wanting to go to church and you're not happy being married, or not, not get a divorce or anything, but if you're not happy, at home right now, why are you still here? Why are you have uncles you can go stay with, you have dads you can go stay with, well, why don't you, take some time, and if you're not happy, maybe try to go live somewhere else where you can be happy. And so I had that talk with him, and of course he got so upset. He ripped apart the house, he trashed it so bad, and he took my car, and he left and was gone for 3 days. And our pastor finally got a hold of him and asked him to bring the car back, because I needed it for work and for the kids and things. And when he finally brought it back, he had basically destroyed it. It wasn't drivable anymore. He made sure that it wasn't going to run very long after he brought it back. And he was getting all his stuff. He took that opportunity to go ahead and get the rest of his stuff out of the house. And he was just going through the house, destroying the house again. And I was, my heart, I always want to work everything out. And I was just asking him, are you sure this is what you want to do? Are you sure you don't want to come back and work things out and just do right? Just, be a good husband, be a good dad, try to, serve the Lord, be, go to church with us, we can, the Lord can help us, basically. And he just snapped, and he turned around really fast. And he said in a very angry voice, he said, if I ever do come back, I'm going to kill you and the kids and burn the house down with you in it. And that's the last thing I ever heard him say. He got the rest of his stuff. It really shook me up, where I was like, oh man. So I just stayed away from him the rest of the time he was getting his stuff, and just let him get his stuff and let him go. But it scared me so bad to when he did leave, I went and got a restraining order, because I was scared that I was just living in fear, like at any moment he was going to come kill me and the kids, So I got a restraining order, and which it's just a piece of paper, so it didn't do much, because he would still try to write letters through people, or just different things. But probably 10 months into the restraining order, he had went to Alabama for a while to work, and he had went to Louisiana to visit his dad. He would just go wherever, people would let him stay with them, working and then doing drugs and getting drunk and things. And from what I gather, what I've been told, they were all at his dad's house, partying, drinking, getting drunk. And I think I think him and his dad had maybe got into an argument, and he ended up going to his bedroom that he was staying in, and kind of just said he told everybody he was going to go to bed, and everybody else stayed down, was drinking and stuff. And the neighbor was over also drinking with them. And when the neighbor started walking home, she walked back towards her house, and she found him hanging in a tree. He had snuck out of the house and hung himself. And his dad come out and cut him down out of the tree, and beat on his chest. They had called paramedics and all that, and they did get a heartbeat back, but he never came to. He never woke up. He had lost oxygen too much to his brain, and they kept him, on life support until I could get down to New Orleans, Ochsner Medical Center in New Orleans, to my thing was I wanted to get down there and maybe try to pray for him. I was going down there in hopes that maybe we could pray for him and the Lord would heal him. That was my ultimate hope, but it didn't happen that way. The next day after I got there, they unhooked everything, and sadly he passed away. My daughter was 2 at this time. The boys were 4 and I think 8 at the time. maybe 9. I'm not sure. I think Waylon had just turned 9. But so I was just serving the Lord after that I was kept going strong for the Lord. It was very hard to go through, but I look back now and I can see even then the hand of the Lord just carried me through everything, because I'm not going to say it didn't affect me, but I'm so thankful that I had the Lord during that time, because it's hard to put in words. Like, it hurt. I cried. I grieved. It was a horrible thing to have to experience and go through, but it kind of felt like it happened to somebody else, because the Lord, I feel like he numbed me through that time and carried me through that time to where it didn't affect me like it would affect somebody that didn't have the Lord. Like, I see people that it's happened to and they just completely, go off the wall and end up, destroying their life when something really traumatic like that happens. But the Lord really helped us and just carried us through all of it. And, I was a widow for a while and just trying to serve the Lord. And I mean, I was broken. I didn't trust, I was nowhere near looking for a relationship at all. So I was really broken and really just a single mom, a widow, and just kept going on serving the Lord, and the Lord was being faithful to us. And guess I'll let Jesse jump back in with his testimony. I'd seen Jesse come in, and I'd seen him pray and get saved, and I'm the type of person, as I've been the person that didn't have anybody as far as friends or anything, so I always try to be a friend to everybody. And so when he come in, I would be nice to him. I'd be friendly. I feel like I try to be friendly to everybody. I try to be helpful. I knew that he was just trying to support him and his dad, so I would do things like just be hospitable. I would take them food if I heard that they didn't have food, or I'm not trying to insult him in any way, but he told you how he came in, just real baggy, like really tattered and tore up clothes and things like that. So I had even bought him clothes at one point. It wasn't just nothing to do with him. I would do it for anybody. That's just who I was. I just like to be helpful. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to insult him in any way, but he didn't smell the best when he come in church sometimes. So I kind of nonchalant, I was like, hey, if you ever need some laundry done, I know y'all don't have a washer or dryer, you can just bring your clothes to church and I'll wash your clothes for you. Just trying to, I didn't say, hey, you kind of smell bad, let me wash your clothes, but I kind of did it in a nice way.
I've got deodorant now.
I was like, I'll wash your clothes for you. And so I was doing things that were nice for him, but I think he took it the wrong way. He thought I was interested in him, but I really wasn't. No, and I kind of encouraged him. There was another young lady at our church that was single. She had never been at that time. She's married now, but she had never been married, and more his age, 6 years older than him. So she's right at the same age as him. And I was kind of encouraging, him to go for her, and we was encouraging her to go for him. They went on a couple of little, I guess, dates you could call, and they even come while they were talking. She called me up one day, and she's like, "Hey, we're wanting to get some pancakes, but everywhere's closed. Can you cook us some pancakes?" So they came over to my house at midnight. Both of them, the one I was trying to get him to go for, come to my house at midnight, and I cooked pancakes for him. And
it was love first bite.
He'd love it first bite. But
sound like a vampire.
But I will let him tune in from here and tell his side of things. But that was my side. I was not looking for anybody. I was so hurt. I did not want anybody. I was just trying to be a nice person.
Yeah, guess I was about like the devil. I was pretty persistent. Wouldn't give up easily. So anyway, so kind of backtrack a little bit. I was living with my stepdad. Well, after I had got saved, I kind of felt the Lord deal with me to no longer bring him to liquor stores or tobacco stores, anything like that. Like, I'm playing a part of it. I'm for it if I'm doing those things. So the next time he'd ask me to take them, I refused to do it. Well, it was really dangerous the way he did it. He rigged up his truck to where he had a cane on the brake and then a golf club on the gas pedal, and that's how he drove the truck, is with a cane and a golf club. It was quite interesting to see this. But anyway, it all wound up becoming a big ordeal. He wound up, going back, telling me how worthless I was and no good for nothing. And all this happened right at the time the Lord helped me quit smoking cigarettes. And and he just went on a rampage, so to speak, and told me I needed to pack my stuff and get out, and that I ain't no help to him, and I ain't gonna be no help to nobody, and always gonna be unreliable and worthless in this world, just a waste of space. And so I got all my stuff packed up, and a part of me was just like, there was a part of that was just hollering in my mind, is just go back where you came from. You was happier in Louisiana anyway. But there was a small voice speaking to me, says, call Brother Mike. And I'm shaking just because my nerves are so bad right then at that point. And I called Brother Mike. I explained to him what had happened. And him and another brother in the church had helped get me a truck because I couldn't get one on my own. They went in together and bought me a truck. We was fixing it up. Had a little camper shell on the back of it. And I told him, I said, Brother Mike, I said, I have this truck that y'all have me. Y'all got me. It's got that camper on the back of it, little camper shell. I said, I can throw me a mattress in the back of it. I said, I don't want to go back to Louisiana where I came from, because I know I will wind up worse than the way I came. And if not, I'll wind up dead. I said, if we can pull this truck to your place, just somewhere out of the way, I said, I'll sleep in the back of my truck. I won't have no problems. I don't want to lose the ground that I've gained with the Lord. So Brother Mike, he came over there and he just picked me up, said, we'll come back and get your truck later. And he told me, so I got this building over here by the house. It's got insulation, wiring. It's got a AC unit in it. It's got a little bunk bed in there, and so we can get you set up in there. So well, that sounds great. I've stayed in a storage building before. Don't bother me none. Just somewhere I can lay my head and stay out of the water and stay out of the rain for the most part. And I got over there and he showed me where it was, and I was just happy as could be to have that, to know that I would still be able to go to church. And so he said, well, let's go inside, we'll get something to drink, and we'll kind of come up with a game plan on everything. And well, we walked inside, and little did I know, and to the surprise to both of us, his wife, Sister Donna, she had got in the guest room back there in the back of the house, and had cleaned it completely out, put new blankets, new sheets, new pillows, everything. She fixed the guest room up for me. And she says, you're not staying out there in that storage building, you're staying here in the house. And so it was kind of just, I broke down in tears right then, just for the kindness that they showed me. And had a lot of wonderful chicken dinners there. I tell my wife, I fasted a lot of chicken dinners for you. You got a lot to make up for. But anyway, I took an interest in her. Really, I had went on the date with the other girl for the sake of Brother Mike had asked me to, out of respect that the pastor asked me to go out with her. And so I did. He said, well, just go out with her a few times and just see if there's anything there. And I did, just out of respect for what he's done for me. And there wasn't nothing there. I had my eyes set on another prize. And anyway, she wouldn't have nothing to do with me. It's really funny. She thought I was annoying, which things haven't changed. I'm still annoying, aggravating.
She's nodding as he's saying this.
Yes. She's saying amen over there in her own way. And So I asked her to go out with me, and she said, "Well, I don't know. I have to pray about that." And I said, "Okay, we'll pray about it." And she wouldn't give me a direct answer. For the most part, she would avoid me, and wouldn't want nothing to do with me. Anyway, so I was just praying and seeking after the Lord, and saying, "Lord, if it's your will, make it real to me. Give me." I've heard, if you seek after the Lord, He can give you a scripture to confirm things, or He'll give you a vision, or He'll make it real to the point where you know without a shadow of a doubt it is His will for this to happen. So I was praying and fasting, living with the pastor. I'd go down to his pond. On the other side of it, there was a little creek down off on the bottom of the hill, and I'd spend down there for hours just praying and reading, seeking after the Lord for His will to be done in my life. And I never forget it. After praying one day, I went in and got ready for bed, and when I finally went to sleep, at the time I thought it was a dream. And mind you, everything that Brandy had went through with her previous husband, I had no idea about it. I had met him one time, and he invited me to church. So at that time, he was going to church, but that was the only time I ever met him. I didn't know about the drug issues. I didn't know about the abuse and the threats and everything that had went on. I didn't know none of that. So I had fell off into sleep, and I'll just describe it as I seen it then. I fell off in this dream, and I was walking down the road in this dream, and I looked off to the side, and there was a home that was kind of off the road just a little ways, that was burnt down, and there was nothing there. It was just completely charred and just burnt to a crisp. It didn't look like there was anything there worth salvaging. And just looking at this home, you can just feel such pain and such hurt and just such a brokenness coming off of this home. Just in this dream, you could feel it. And so I decided, curiosity, I'm gonna walk inside of it, see if there's anything there. And so I walked inside of it, and looking around, and everything was just completely destroyed. The home was a wreck, and I thought, man, there's nothing here worth salvaging. It's so sad that you can feel the torment, you can feel the pain, you can feel the hurt, you can feel the agony, you can feel so many different emotions. In this dream, I felt them all in there, and walking in that home, and it just looked like there was nothing there left to save. There's nothing there left to salvage. And I'm getting ready to turn around to walk back out, and then a beam of light comes through the trusses of this home and hits something in the corner that has just a little glimmer of shine to it. And I walk over to it, and I pick it up, and it was 4 little circles. I couldn't make out what they were. I could see that there was little chains that held them together, and they were on the brink of crumbling. They were just barely holding on. There was like a hollow spot in the middle. I couldn't make out what it was. It was just all burnt and just beaten, and there was dents all in there, and it's just different things that I seen in this. And in this dream, I had a rag in my pocket, so I pulled this rag out, and I began to wipe these circles down. And as I wiped them down, the little ding marks that were in them began to pop out. The shine began to come back, and there was glass there in the center, and it began to come back and restore. The chains began to come back bigger and stronger than they were before. And by the time I had got done with all this thing, wiping this thing down, I held it out in this dream, and I looked at it, and it was Brandy and the kids. And immediately I had woke out of that dead sleep, and I was speaking in the Holy Ghost. And the Lord quickened to me and said, "You are going to be the one to restore this family." And I didn't know anything that she went through. I testified about this later on, about a month after we got married. I testified about it at a place she was going to speak at, and she can tell her part on that too. But it was confirmation for someone else that was there, and because it was really funny. After I had this dream, then I was really on her then, like a flea on a dog. I would not leave her alone. And and I tell her, just pray about it, just pray about it, just pray about it. And and So finally, when she finally agreed to go out with me, I asked her, she told me she'd give me an answer on May 23rd of 2014, and that was her youngest son's birthday. And so I was really looking forward to it. I was excited to hear the answer, because man, she done drug this thing out. Just man, I'm patient now, but then I was pretty eager. I wasn't very patient then.
Well, I'll go ahead and jump in and fill in the gaps of up to that point. Like he said, that he kept asking me to be his girlfriend, but I had, like I said earlier, I'd been so broken and just so hurt that I was not interested in anybody. It wasn't, honestly, nothing personal against him. I just was not looking for a relationship at all because of everything that I had been through. And when he would ask me, well, why don't you think about being my girlfriend? I'd be like, okay, sure, I'll pray about it. And I honestly, the first few times he asked me, I didn't even pray about it. I had already had my mind made up. I was just saying something to get him off my back. I was like, oh yeah, okay, I'll pray about it. And so he'd come to me, we go to the same church, so in same basically youth group, and just see around each other all the time. And so he would talk to me on the phone or text me and stuff, and I'd pick him up for church when he didn't have a ride and things like that, and I was still doing his laundry and different things. He had asked me again. He's like, won't you really pray about it? I was like, okay, I'll really pray about it. And like he said, it was my son's birthday party was coming up, and I was like, well, I'll have you an answer by this time. I'll really pray about it, and I'll give you an answer by this time. I'll be I don't know what the word is. I'll really be serious about it, and I'll make it a matter of prayer. So I began praying about it, and right away, like I said, my mind was made up, but right away I already felt the Lord nudging me, telling me that it was a yes, and I didn't want it to be a yes. I didn't want him, but so I not just him, I didn't want anybody. But I had like this list of things that I would tell the Lord, that of why it wasn't him. Every day I'd go to prayer, and then I felt like the Lord dealt with me to fast. So I fasted for 3 days, and I had told our pastor, I was like, if Jesse wonders why I'm not answering any texts or any calls or anything like that, I was like, just let him know I'm fasting, and I'm not going to talk to him during that time, because I don't even want, I don't want him to have any effect on the answer. I want it to be, directly from the Lord. So if I'm getting the idea of him being a boyfriend, or, and I wasn't just praying about a boyfriend. I have 3 kids to think about. I was praying, is this who you want me to be with and marry, Lord? And so I was like, if this is, something I'm even getting on my mind, I don't want him to sway me in any way. I don't want him to charm me and make me say yes by getting caught up in my feelings, by him, just, schmoozing on in there and getting cozy, and making me say yes, and it just be my feelings and not the Lord's will. So every day during that fast, I was going to prayer, and I would just pray and ask the Lord, honestly, I get down and I was like, Lord, it's not Jesse, because, this and this and that, and he lives with the pastor, so he's poor, he doesn't have a steady job, and just listing all of these things. Lord, he's younger than me, so he's immature. He's 6 years younger than me. I'm like, he's, just all these things that I can think of why, it's not him. These little things I was nitpicking, and just every day that was my routine of me telling the Lord why it wasn't Jesse. And but every day I kind of felt a nudge. The Lord was speaking to me, but I hate to say it, but I kind of would like wrap my prayers up really quickly, because I'd kind of feel the Lord start dealing with me and say, oh yeah, it might be him, and I would just quit praying right quick, because I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want it to be Jesse. I didn't want it to be nobody. I didn't want to have a relationship. I didn't want to go through all the things that I had went through again. I was so afraid to get hurt again. And it was that third day, it was the day that I told him I'd have an answer by. And I was praying, and I did the whole little, spiel, the skit that I always did of why he's poor, he's immature, he's all these things. I kept telling the Lord, see all these things? Can you look at all these things? And I was like, Lord, I don't even know what to do. And I saw my Bible laying there, and I just felt impressed to pick up my Bible and open it, and I've never done that before, to just take the Bible at whatever my eyes fell on, but I felt really impressed to do that day. So I opened my Bible, and the first thing my eyes fell on was Isaiah 66:2, and it says, for all those things hath my hands made, and all those things have been, saith the Lord, but to this man will I look upon, even to him that is poor and of a contrite spirit, and trembleth at my word. And
woo, praise God, amen, hallelujah.
And when I read that, I felt like the Lord gave me the biggest whooping. I felt like what he was saying to me was, I see all those things. I know. I see him. I made all those things. But I'm going to look on him, and I'm going to help him. Even though those things, all you're listing, I see everything that you're listing, and I see all that, but but I felt like the Lord just gave me the biggest whooping and said, hey, now I've been trying to talk to you. Now you listen to me. So for a little while, for the longest time, I told him, I was like, well, I'll get to so I went and picked him up for my son's birthday party. We
went to my favoriteest place.
At the time, we don't go there no more, but we was young in the Lord, and we didn't see nothing wrong with it at the time, but the Lord is really, we went to Chuck E. Cheese.
Where a kid can be a kid.
Yeah, but we was young in the Lord and didn't know a lot, so that's, we went there. I don't know if we've been back since then, but we went the whole time, and I never even talked to him. He kept like staring me down, and I even picked him up and never talked to him the whole way there. And I was drawing it out on purpose. I was letting him squirm. And then so it got to the end of the party, and he kind of come up to me. He was playing, I think it was like the game to where you try to get the ball in like one of the different holes. It's almost like it's like a bouncy, or not a bowling ball, but it's like a smaller ball, and there's like 5, 10, 20, 100 or whatever, and you try to get it to the middle. Almost, I don't know what it's called, but he was trying to roll the ball and get it in the right hole. And he's like, so did you get an answer? And I kind of just nonchalant, just shrugged my shoulders and just like, yeah, I got an answer. And he's like, you did? I was like, yeah. He's like, well, what was it? And it's like, yeah. And I was just being so calm about it. And he's like, yeah. It's like, yeah. I was just being so calm, and he just got so excited. He's like, yeah, just going all over saying, yeah. She said, yeah.
Like a dog getting excited. Yeah. When they pull the treat bag out, they just get to jumping around, spinning in circles.
It was hilarious. So I said, yeah. And then, like I said, I wasn't, in my mind, I was praying like, Lord, is this who you want me to marry? So, it was that was on the 23rd. Mm-hmm. On the 28th, we had went to the park, to just let the kids play at the park. And, was it the 20, it's like the 27th we went to the park. And, And then the 28th, I was taking him to get his driver's license because, believe it or not, he didn't have a driver's license yet. So I was taking him to get his driver's license. We got all the way to town, and he had forgot his birth certificate at Brother Mike's house, so he had to go all the way. I think he planned it, though. But he thinks like 15 minutes. It's 15 minutes to town, so I say all the way. But he's like, it's just a few miles. So I'm pretty sure he planned it like this. We went back to Brother Mike's house, and he was going to go in to get his birth certificate, and he said, well, why don't you come wait for me on the porch? I'm like, well, you're just running in to get your birth certificate and coming right back out. Why do I got to wait on the porch? I'll just wait right here in the car. He's like, well, just come wait on the porch. I'm like, okay, whatever. I'll come wait on the porch. I was like, what in the world's going on here? So this was that was the 23rd. So this is 5 days later, 5 days. And, so I went and waited on the porch, and here comes Brother Mike out after Jesse went in. Here comes Brother Mike, just smiling, rubbing his belly. He was barefoot, just had the biggest grin on his face, and he kind of come around me, and kind of started talking to me to where I had to turn and have my back facing the door. And so he was distracting me is what he was doing. Look back and see it now. So he's just like, oh, what are y'all doing today? And just grinning, he looked like he'd just eat because he just kept rubbing his belly, he's just big old grin on his face. And I was like, something is up. There's something going on here. And I heard the door open, but I was, talking to Brother Mike, so I didn't pay attention to the door open. And then all of a sudden I feel something grab my hand, and I looked down, and Jesse was on one knee. He was just spilling his guts, and he was just like, oh, I love you so much, would you please marry? I said, what are you doing? I said, get up right now, you are embarrassing me. He's like, oh, I'm never gonna get up until you say that you'll marry me, and blah 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 blah. And I was like, get up right now, you are embarrassing me right here in front of the pastor. Brother Mike's just laughing, and he just would not get up. He's like, just say you'll marry me, and then I'll get up. I said, okay, I'll marry you. Just get up right now. You're embarrassing me. So he stood up, and boy, he's so happy, and I'm just flustered because I'm so embarrassed. And and then Brother Mike, he was like, oh, well, he's like, well, I can marry y'all right here on the porch if you want to. And I was like, no, Brother Mike, me and my first husband had went to the courthouse and just got married, really quickly one day. And we just went to town and just decided to do it while we were in town. So I was like, no, I want a wedding this time. And he pulled out his phone. He's like, well, when do you get, because my husband had died, I was getting survivor benefits, so I got a check every month. Me and Maddie did. So I looked on the phone. I was like, well, my next check comes in 2 weeks. And he looked at his phone. He's like, yeah. He's like, we ain't got nothing going that Saturday. He said, I can do it in 2 weeks. I was like, are you serious, Brother Mike? He said, yeah. I said, oh, it's open. We can do it in 2 weeks. I was like, okay, put it down. Let's do it. And so we scrambled those 2 weeks, and I did what I could. I got my wedding dress at the Goodwill, and most of my decorations come from Hobby Lobby and Dollar Tree, and all the wonderful ladies at our church that helped and threw together a wedding for me.
They're not a sponsor. Hobby Lobby or Dollar Tree is not a sponsor.
No, they're not a sponsor. But yeah, that was it. So 2 weeks and 5 days was our engagement period, and dating and engagement period. And praise the Lord, last week, what was it, Thursday?
Friday. Well,
Friday was our 10-year wedding anniversary. We've been married 10 years now. So we come.
Oh yeah, there we go. First time using the effects.
Yeah, we made this trip to California as part of our 10-year wedding anniversary.
Yep. Yep, and through our intense moments of fellowship, the Lord has kept us all the way.
Based on what you said earlier, that doesn't sound pleasant.
The reason he's saying that, it's funny because a church he had preached at not too long ago, a lady and a older man had been married for like 50-something years. It was their anniversary, and they got up to testify, and she said, "We've never fought. Though we've had some intense moments of fellowship, the Lord has kept us all the way." So that's his joke, that anybody that even has an argument, he said it's intense moments of fellowship.
I just love how delicate that is of putting it. It's just great. So I thought I'm going to have to remember that. We're not fighting. We're not arguing. We're just having an intense moment of fellowship right now. That sounds more holy, if you put it that way.
So is there anything that I've left out?
I can't think of anything. She's still washing my clothes. I went in tattered and torn, but she cleaned me up. Praise the Lord. She buys me. She tries to keep me stocked up with deodorant and cologne. She buys me a toothbrush, make sure my breath smells good too. So we don't have that problem no more. Keeps me with the razor and shaving cream, so I don't look like I got the mange anymore. Praise the Lord.
I gave you a haircut today.
Yeah, she gave me a haircut today, so she can make sure I don't look kind of shaggy walking around with long curly hair no more. It's high and tight.
All right, so if you guys are done, thank you for coming on. And thank you all for listening.